Fantasy football leagues are won in draft day, and unless you're a master negotiator, you'll probably be stuck with most of your picks for the entire season. So it's important to nail this draft, and I'll help you do just that on this video, showing you 5 players to target and 5 to avoid at all costs. So make sure to stay till the end and subscribe if you like the video. Anyways, target number 1 is Amon-Ra St. In most drafts, he's been picked after round 7, and honestly, I wouldn't mind taking him in round 6 or probably even in round 5. He was a top 3 fantasy wideout in the last 5 weeks of 2021, and if he stays similar to last year, he could be a top tier backup and maybe a solid starter in bigger leagues. Now a player to avoid is Amari Cooper. His fantasy projections this year are through the ceiling, and honestly, I don't think they'll be accurate at all. He won't have Deshaun Watson for 11 weeks, so he'll be a solid number 3 wideout in that period. The problem is, a lot of people is taking him as the number 1 option, which he is not. Anyways, a player to target is Javonte Williams. He had some good production last year despite splitting carries with Melvin Gordon. I expect him to have well over 1,000 yards and get the number 1 running back role right away. And actually, I think Javonte Williams' case will be similar to Jonathan Taylor's one last year, so make sure to get him in all of your leagues. And now a player to avoid is Rashaad Penny. He was a top tier running back during the last 5 weeks of 2021, but there are 2 big problems with him. The first one is that his touchdown dependency is way too high, which means he isn't very reliable. And the next one is that he's being drafted way too early, when you could possibly target him in round 7 to 9. Expect him to be a starter at best, but he shouldn't be your number 1 option. The next player to target is Jalen Hurts. He has some elite rushing production, being close to Lamar Jackson on yards per game on the ground. Last year, he was a very solid fantasy quarterback, and now add AJ Brown to the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 5. Let guys like Herbert and Allen slide. Hurts will have similar production despite being taken up to 3 rounds later on average. And now a player to avoid is Gage. Fantasy projections for him are insanely high, and there's not even reason they should be. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones are way better options for Tom Brady, and even if he got a good target share, it wouldn't be close to a fantasy football starter. Don't draft him. If he's a free agent, you could maybe pick him, but don't waste a draft pick on him, please. Next player to target is Friermuth. He isn't expected to be a top 10 tight end, and I would agree, at least at the beginning of the season. I think his production will go up each and every week and could go on to be a very good starter at tight end. However, you should target him as a backup late in the draft, because if he has a breakout, it'll take its time. Another player to avoid is Saquon Barkley. He's been dealing with injuries for like forever, and that's always concerning in fantasy. He has the talent to be a top 5 running back, but he's been taken in the first 2 rounds of most drafts. The risk is just too high. I would recommend you go for a safer option on those picks. Anyways, next player to target is DJ Moore. Despite his quarterback situation being awful, he's still consistent and able to easily surpass 1,000 yards every season. Now he has Baker Mayfield throwing at him, so beware of those deep passes. You can draft this guy as a number 3 wide receiver who has the potential of becoming a number 1 as the season progresses. And the last player to avoid is Melvin Gordon. As I said earlier in the video, I expect Williams to take over the number 1 role right away, leaving Gordon with a much smaller snap share than last season. He shouldn't be a starter in fantasy, and I would argue players like Dameon Pierce are better backup options than him. Anyways, I hope you find this video useful to hopefully win your fantasy football league this upcoming season. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing since it's free and it really helps a lot. Thanks for watching and see you next time.